Hello again. Let's continue with our examination of the art of Claude Monet, the father of French Impressionism. I have one more series of paintings to show you to really underscore this passion, this connection to his subject that Claude Monet experienced and pursued, working as a plein air painter outdoors, and not surprisingly, the study of light and its transitory qualities was immensely fascinating to this very popular artist. Let's move forward and take a look at what I'm talking about. All right, pulling up the PowerPoint here, we'll see a church that has nothing to do with the 19th century. This is a Gothic medieval church in France. And this was a building that still stands today. And it was certainly stood the centuries by the time Claude Monet was alive, and it became an object of fascination for him. Take a look at the surface of that church. It is completely rich in texture. And it's one you have to really pause and appreciate the way all of those pockets of shadow and light are captured on that very rough, almost coral-like surface. Wow, now you may see something very familiar in this first painting that I'm showing you. And you also see the name of that Gothic cathedral in France that was fascinating to Claude Monet. And again, we're looking at the art of the French Impressionists. The title of this particular painting is Rouen Cathedral, the portal, parentheses, in sun, close parentheses. The date, 1894. So this is a subject that Claude Monet would appear before and try to capture this quality of light. As you can see in the parentheses on the title, in sun, there's your clue that the subject for Claude Monet wasn't this old church. It was the way light appeared on it. That richly textured surface and the medieval Gothic architecture in tandem as an architectural specimen. It was like a muse. You hear about these artistic muses. Usually they're beautiful women, but in this case, it's a magnificent Gothic cathedral. And this richly textured surface that captures shadow and light. And more importantly, the transitory quality, the fleeting, ever-changing quality of light. That's what the French Impressionists were really interested in. So this isn't the only painting. It wasn't just something he spent time with at one point in his life. He kept coming back and returning to the same subject of the study of light, his true subject, upon this exterior of the Rouen Cathedral. So, for instance, you might look at this and look at the shadows and say, yeah, maybe that's like an 11 a.m. Time where the sun's risen up. It's not quite directly overhead, but it's enough where you get a very brilliantly illuminated facade and pockets of shadow as well. Now, if I were to show you this one, here's another painting of the church once again. This is not the title, this is just a description. Now we're looking at a view and a painting that Monet executed capturing morning light. This is almost like the same palette we saw with his painting Impression Sunrise. More blues, violets, grays, as night is transitioning into day. On the upper portions of the bell towers, you can see how the capture on the part of Monet of the first rays of warm light here and here using color. Again, color is how Monet is describing light. But it doesn't stop there. Let's keep going. How about afternoon light? Maybe 4 o'clock we're looking at. The sun is starting to go down in the sky. The rays of sunlight elongate and make with the atmosphere this appearance of warm, almost amber tone lighting on the facade of this particular church. Let's blow up the lower left-hand corner. And there you'll see in this magnified detail shot, not only the artist's famous signature and date of the painting, but his famous confidence in using visible brushwork. But it's more than in the Impression Sunrise painting. We are looking at a myriad of dabs and dashes, all colors to describe pockets of shadow, blues, violets, greens, etc., and light, oranges, yellows, reds, all of that. No more white tube of paint for highlights and black tube of paint for shadow. Claude Monet is turning to the color wheel and using color to describe light. He's using visible brushwork to convey the fleeting, transitory moment where in the next set of seconds, the lighting will look completely different upon that medieval church. How about sunset? Here is the sunset view, right? This is almost like we're watching the sun go down on the same palette of a sunset. Lavenders and pinks and warm oranges. This is what we see on the surface, this very rough, textured surface of this medieval cathedral. So there are over 30 of these paintings. A whole series is what Monet came up with as necessary to really capture the many experiences of light upon that medieval cathedral. Different times of day, different seasons, different weather conditions, all of these things can impact the way light in its transitory quality appears on the surface of this muse to Claude Monet, the Rouen Cathedral. By the way, there are other paintings out there. Let me remove myself for a second so you can see these. You're not responsible for these paintings, but this is another series he executed called Haystacks. A subject that's ordinary, stacks of hay, and yet he is pursuing this fascination with the transitory quality of light, the description of light through color. In the upper left, maybe the time of day being first thing in the morning, maybe 7 a.m., the sun rising in the sky, long shadows cast by these haystacks in kind of a springtime palette of colors of crisp greens and yellows. Meanwhile, a little bit more of a muted palette on the bottom. Haystacks once again, looking like maybe a cool winter morning or evening. The sun a little bit further away from the earth at that time of year in that season. Light diffused more maybe through clouds, but soft pinks, soft purples. Again, the transitory quality of light. And then finally, just as a little fun background into Claude Monet, you can find, I believe at MoMA, his famous water lily paintings. This is another series, but if you were to walk into this space, you may not recognize what you're looking at. Many artists back in the day, again, with age, and Monet lived to a grand old age, but when eyesight is challenging, sometimes you find they work on a larger scale, and that's what Monet did. From his country home in France, he was a famous gardener, had a beautiful pond, and as I mentioned back in the early days, this artist was fascinated with light, but the reflection of light on a body of water, as we saw in his Impression Sunrise painting. And here you can see it is a reflection on the surface of a pond that he had at his own home at Giverny. And so you can see, if you look carefully, you can see lily pads, just like we have here in Los Angeles on Echo Park Lake, right? But also reflection of the clouds in the sky. So it's a view of both what's on the surface of the water, maybe what's in the water, what it reflects above in the sky, but he denies us what other artists would have done in earlier art historical periods, where they would have created a surround of land and plants and flowers to contextualize that view. Instead, Monet presents something that's taking us toward abstraction, which is the path we are eventually going to conclude at in this survey class of art history. All right, catch you next time. Bye-bye.